So what I was saying before realized we didn't have any audio. We're going to go over rocker arms, rocker arm tech, camshaft lineup changes, intake manifold tech talk. So I guess we need to start with any questions, or do you want to?
So we start with
just go right on the rocker arm stuff. Okay, so LS rockers. This is something we get often asked about on the Trunnion upgrades. What do we need to do? When do we need to do it? Do I need the Trunnion upgrade? And it varies. The factory rocker arms are actually pretty good pieces, especially when they're used with milder camshaft profiles that don't have an absurd amount of lift or very harsh valve events. Of course, in the aftermarket, any camshaft is going to put a little added stress there. I mean, you're RPMing harder, you're running higher spring rates, so some additional stress is to be expected there. For a long time, some of the needle bearing trunnion upgrades we did not feel were any better than the factory pieces. So we'll go over what we've got here. We've got a factory rocker arm, still intact, and you can see the trunnion has a stop in each direction, and inside here are a bunch of needle bearings. And what you have over time, when you have a failure, these needles just simply fall out. They go down the engine and they create quite a mess. It can be catastrophic in some situations. A poor camshaft design, obviously, aggressive camshaft design can lead to that. Improper maintenance, just a bad valve train setup in general. There are many things that can cause these to fail. That being said, look at how many of these GM produces. Okay, there's not an absurd failure rate when you look at how many fail versus how many are produced. So these little guys get a bad rap sometimes. However, with today's technology, these bushing kits that have come out, we've really grown to like these. And I'm going to display here, this is a factory LS7 rocker arm, which is identical to the LS3 except for it's a 1:8 ratio. This is completely disassembled. So there's your trunnion that comes in this rocker arm. And I'm about to make a mess here. So what we have inside here is the bearing assembly. And when this comes apart, you get all these little guys in your engine. So I'm not trying to scare you guys, but we want you to understand the difference in designs between the factory components. Some of the other trunnion kits that are out there still utilize needle bearings, and what we've kind of gone to using when we upgrade the rocker arm trunnions, we run bushing kits. So let's move on to that. A couple of the bushing kits here. This is one of the favorites. Ease of installation is awesome. The CHE bronze bushing kit. So basically, you have a nice trunnion. You have snap ring grooves. These bushings actually are full floating inside the rocker, so you don't have to have a press, you don't have to have a vise, you don't have to have any special tooling. You just simply assemble this. Obviously you're going to pre-lube everything. Put that together and you put snap rings on it and you're good to go. I believe CHE recommends maximum of 650 valve lift and 8,500 RPMs or so, which most of your hydraulic guys, you're going to be around that area anyway, so I don't think we really need to harp on that too much. Another option, which these guys are priced pretty well. Another option that we use a good bit are the Smith brothers. So you have the bronze bushings, very similar to the CHE, with the exception of these bronze bushings have to be there's proper tooling to use to properly locate that. Press these in with the trunnion to get this properly assembled. So they're not hard to install, but they do take a little bit more tools, proper equipment to do so, and certainly care, because you don't want to get these bushings pressed in crooked. You don't want to go in too far with them, because if you do, they will bind up. You press them in too tight, they will bind on the trunnion shaft itself, and it will not operate freely. Same concept. Minor differences in design. Obviously, these have to be pressed in. Still snap ring retention, so nothing crazy there. Very well priced. I think the CHEs are around a couple $100, and the Smith Brothers are about
$160.
Yeah, about $40 cheaper at $160 roughly. So these are some things that certainly are worth consideration when you're doing your cam head swaps, valve train upgrades. Very well priced products to give you that added durability with your cam swap. Rocker arms in general, the factory pieces are on a hydraulic roller. These things are so hard to beat, honestly. I mean, the mass of the tip is so light in comparison to a lot of the aftermarket options. And I've got a couple rocker arms here, and we'll go over some features and benefits. So you have some bolt-in rockers, and this is something off of a previous build, something we had laying around to show you here. It's a very heavy rocker arm. There's a lot of mass on the tip. As a matter of fact, it's almost 3 times the mass versus a factory rocker on the tip. The roller design is nice. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's a nice benefit, but that added mass is more. That's a valve spring has to control. So heavier valves, heavier rockers, heavier retainers. Those are all things that are going to work against you when you're trying to blueprint a valve train to turn RPM and be durable. These Harlan Sharp rockers, these are some for an LS1 build we've got going out in the shop right now. We like these. They are heavier mass than the factory rockers by about let's see, about 12 grams or so, 10 to 12 grams. But when you combine the titanium retainers that we run with a lot of the dual spring kits, and the lighter intake valves, just moving from an L99 to an LS3 intake valve saves you some weight there. You can quickly, essentially wash that out, and end up with a fairly light valve train setup. The beauty of these is they have their own little stand. You do away with the factory stand. They have an individual stand, and they're adjustable. So you can really dial in your lifter preload depending on application. If you want to try to bottle lifters on a short travel setup to try to RPM, et cetera, et cetera. And also, a lot of combinations will need different length push rods on intake and exhaust. So that helps really dial in, because a lot of your push rods are in 25 thousandths increments, so it's hard to get that perfect amount you're looking for. Lastly, we'll talk about the shaft mount rockers. So T&Ds, guys that are going solid roller mainly are going to run these guys. This is actually the same exact set that I have on my car currently. Rail style system, bolts in factory location, extremely durable, very similar in weight to the Harlan Sharps. Roller tip, adjustable. This setup right here is ultra rigid, tying everything together, and you can't beat these. The only downside is the price, because a set of shaft mount rockers are $1,400 depending on what you get. Crowers, they can go up from there depending on watt application. But this is certainly overkill for most hydraulic setups. This is more of a solid roller setup. And anyways, that's a little bit of rocker arm tech. Hopefully that covers some of the questions that we commonly get asked in regards to the Trunnion upgrades and so on and so forth. So, we have any questions?
Looks like we have 38 actually.
Well, that's it.
Let's see.
Sorry, I was on a roll, guys. I just had to let it go. It was on my mind.
You're looking for rocker arm questions or just questions?
Just question. It doesn't matter to me. Questions.
We'll start from the top.
Okay.
Bobby B needs to upgrade my setup. Currently have SS4 VVT. Looking to add boost. What do you recommend?
Depends on what type of boost. VVT is not much benefit at all in a power adder application, honestly. So, if you were going to go centrifugal, ProCharger, Vortec, Paxton, that type setup, your SS4 VVT will actually work fairly well with that. If you wanted to make a move to a 3-bolt cam, you could go to the SS4 no fly cut. Be super durable, works very well with centrifugal application. From there, positive displacement and turbo stuff, you need a backup punt and start over with cam grind suited for each one of those applications.
So. That's actually something that a lot of people ask is, I plan on adding boost to my car in a year from now, but I don't want to have to change the cam back out. So can you go into a little bit of detail on why they can't have a one-size-fits-all cam?
Well, if we could have a one-size-fits-all cam, we could make a lot of money. And the fact of the matter is, you just can't, to get the proper valve train events for a nitrous setup and for an all-motor setup or a boosted setup, they all vary.
Valve events. So you mean it's more than just duration?
Don't get me started. Yeah, it's more than just duration. It's more than lobe separation. Tighter lobe separation doesn't always mean it's going to have a cooler idle sound. There's a lot that goes into that. So I like to recommend to people, really have that figured out where you're going to go with the car. You need to try to set the car up if 6 months or a year from now you're going to go boost. You need to try to go ahead and lay the foundation for that setup rather than worry too much with what's the particulars of what you've got right now. You just can't have the best of both worlds and do it right.
So Zach Aries said, "What's the weight?" Give me a second. My comments are bouncing.
I think he said, "What's the weight on dyno tuning?"
Where's he going? Why am I losing comments here?
I think his question was wait time. We're pretty smoked right now. I counted one day last week. We have 44 cars here right now. We're scheduling 3 to 4 weeks out right now on most stuff. Some tuning stuff, depending on what it is, the complexity of it, we're able to slide some of that stuff in. But for the most part, we're a solid 3 weeks out before we would ever even get to try to schedule you in. And we're trying. We've got more staff than we've ever had. We've got 3 to 4 people on the phones at any given time usually now, and 2 of us doing calibration work, and it's busy.
Jeremy at Dominic said, "Good afternoon."
Hey Jeremy, what's up, man?
Ricky Kennedy was on there.
Hey, Buster.
Advice on a turbo cam, LS3 with twins, 4L80E on E85.
Well, I would just say contact us through the support email or fill out the custom cam form online because that's a pretty particular setup. We need to look at what you've got for cylinder heads, RPM range, turbo specifics, car specifics. We need we need to really have some pretty good details on that. And you can certainly fill out the CAM form online or contact us through support, and we can figure something out there.
Desmond Cook said, how does DA and IATs affect your 60-foot?
It's a pretty good question. Density altitude, DA, is just, that's going to directly affect the performance of the vehicle in general everywhere on your time slip, because cooler, denser air makes more power. The drier air makes more power. It's hard to say this much of density altitude makes this much difference, because the faster you go, the harder it is to pick up a little amount. So that's going to vary. I don't know any trick formula to figure that out, but intake air temperatures directly affect it, because not only are you heating your charge up, but when the intake air temps get to a certain point, the computer's set up, we set them up to pull timing out to prevent detonation, and the factory is fairly aggressive with their timing retard with intake air temps. I mean, they'll start pulling timing as soon as 86 degrees on a lot of operating systems, and that can knock the power out really early. So when you're sitting in the lanes idling with the hood down, heat soaking, it's not doing you any favors for your time slip.
Apparently we were having some echo problems earlier.
I replied, fixed.
Okay. Because Kyle said that it sounded like we were announcing a 1952 baseball game. So,
we might have had two microphones at the same time, but that's resolved now.
Okay.
Oops.
That was
Sorry.
Dan's fault if everybody caught that. So
When it zooms in, it does.
yeah. Oh look, Michael Yielding joined.
Sunday.
2016 LT1 Camaro, the Magnuson supercharged setup, our drop-in piston and rods. Question number 1 is ring gap. First ring and second ring gap. How much boost or horsepower is possible?
We rate that combo for 1,000 horsepower. Ultimately, there's a lot of determining factors in how much power that setup will handle. Tuning, fuel used. It's hard to say. That combo of pistons and rods has been proven to make 1,100-1,200 horsepower. I'll tell you that. Ring gap, that's like it's a very opinionated topic. I would say refer to your engine builder on that, or try to make your own determination. Total Seal is who makes the piston rings for that setup, and we follow their guidelines pretty closely. In some occasions we make some minor changes based on what we've seen with our experience in that setup. Once again, you can email us at support for some of those more in-depth questions, because a lot of times we need to know a little bit more about the combo to accurately be able to recommend something there, because ring gap can vary with the fuel used and how much boost. 10 pounds of boost versus 20 pounds of boost is going to be a little bit different setup.
Brandon Broadway joined.
What's up, Brandon?
Brian said he's got those orange Harlan Sharps.
Yeah, Brian's car is a pretty good testament to how durable these rockers are, because in the quarter mile we crossed the traps with a hydraulic roller at about 7,800, 7,900 RPMs.
Michael Yielding said definitely sounds like Ryan Stevens is announcing a Little League game when it's zoomed in.
Again, that was an old question.
Thanks, Dan.
New technology.
Thanks, Dan.
We're getting it.
Eric Hansen said hello from Oregon.
Hey, Eric.
Loves his GPI SS3 VVT. Ricky said, teach these chumps about that 66 long bed workhorse you had.
That thing was tough as a $2 steak.
Is that the green machine?
It was. It was quite a piece of crap, really. But it was fun. It was fun. We all had to start somewhere.
What about good NA cam?
We've got a bunch of them. LS3, LS7, L99, LT1, LS1. It doesn't matter. We've got solutions for any LS platform, LT platform, naturally aspirated, stock displacement or bigger cubic inch.
Ray Sinistro said the track attack.
Balls to the wall.
Yep.
Ray just put a high rim on his car with that camshaft, and looks like it's going to be a pretty good performing combo. Anxious to get that thing to the track and get dialed in.
Andrew Cameron was in here, said he had to bounce. He said, tell me more about the LOD intake.
You know, a good customer of ours, Philip Green, has tried that intake on a C6 Corvette with our SS4 no fly cut. Made outstanding power. He tried it in comparison with a fast mid-runner, and it absolutely killed it. And what was Philip going with that thing? 7,700 RPMs or so, somewhere around there. Yeah. It looks to be a pretty good piece. Personally, we haven't done one in the shop. We've done some of the high ram stuff, and we love the high ram for the hydraulic roller stuff. The guys that want to zing a little bit of RPM, certainly a great manifold. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot of personal experience with the LOD, and we're kind of leaning on Philip right now to. He's one of the few people I think that's out there testing that manifold, so we should have some track data pretty soon from Philip on that setup.
Nick said, on a bolt-on L99 5th gen E85, what's a safe shot I can spray?
Well, it depends. If you're pulling fuel from the fuel rail, the fuel system of the car,
will my stock fuel system be enough?
No, not on E85. You're going to need to go to a ZL1 pump probably for E85 anyways. Plus, you're going to slave the nitrous system off of the factory fuel rail. It's just, you're going to really tax the fuel system. I wouldn't really recommend spraying E85 off the factory fuel system. I would go to a standalone fuel reservoir at that point. And in terms of how much nitrous can you spray safely on the engine, it's going to depend on the tune-up. I can tell you we sprayed in excess of 325 horsepower on a stock bottom end successfully. But it takes the right spark plug and combination, and you have to be pretty careful with the tune-up on there.
Ray said, did y'all get the high ram install done on the LT1 yet? He's curious of the numbers.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Never heard of it.
Philip Green's in here.
What's up, Philip?
Do you recommend porting my stock throttle body and getting rod mod on a ported intake manifold, and will I need a tune afterwards?
The modded manifold with porting of the throttle body will not require any retuning on the LS3. That combo has proven to be, well, we commonly see 10 to 15 horsepower at the wheels with that combo, and that's as bolt on as you can get. I mean, it's simply bolted on and enjoy. Nothing special you need to do there.
Matter of fact, didn't we have somebody bolt one on at the track at Camaro Fest last year?
Steve Christ picked up some mile per hour and a little bit of ET, and we had another customer. Did he have a G8?
No, he was on SS.
He was on SS sedan. He also picked up some pretty good ET and mile per hour, which is awesome for a basic mod like that. That's great.
Zach Cade said, going to be ordering the no fly cut soon for his L99. Would my stock fuel pump and injectors be good, or do I need to upgrade them?
Let's see. On pump gas?
What are you going to say?
Pump gas, you'll be fine. E85, you would need to move up to ZL1 pump, some LSA injectors, and that would get you by. That can make some pretty good power. You know, we've been seeing some great things out of that camshaft lately.
Jake French said Fanta for life.
Of course.
SS3 or SS4 for a daily Camaro?
You know, go big or go home. I would start at SS4.
And a half.
Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter is, a lot of people start out too small with their torque converter, and they start out smaller with their camshaft, just because they have never really had a combination like that before. So, oftentimes people end up, 4 or 6 months down the road saying, man, I wish I would have gone to the next cam, or I wish I'd have put that bigger converter in there you were talking about. Just spend your time doing the research on that, and figure out exactly what you want to do with the car. If you're going to street strip the car, go out and roll race, not that I condone that, you're probably going to want to start with the more aggressive stuff, because even SS4, that's the largest number in our cam lineup, but that doesn't mean it's an all-out race cam. I mean, these are products that can go anywhere, anytime, extremely durable. So I would probably start with the larger cam if you're going to be doing some racing with the car.
Marty Lilly said he's got a GPI SS3 on 13 model, TSP long tubes, Whipple supercharger, making 625 to 650, 345 gears. Needs a converter. What stall and what converter do you recommend?
Man, we do the positive displacement stuff kind of on a custom basis, because everybody's setup's a little different. I can tell you some of the stuff we've done has been we've done some 2A, 3A. The A stators from Circle D have been really well on the positive displacement stuff. They've got great manners on the street in terms of drivability, and they perform really well. So you don't need as much converter with the positive displacement stuff. So don't over converter that. That gets pretty obnoxious pretty quick.
Brandon asks, what's the word on a solid roller for a Gen 5 LT1?
Well, the word is that it's extremely expensive, and we just haven't had anybody that's wanted to do one yet. But we do have adjustable rocker options, and it is certainly doable if an individual wanted to do that. Just saying.
Marty said, sorry, he's switching over to Turbo 400 trans.
Oh, that changes things a lot. That would certainly be a custom converter at that point. It would be built to spec. I would just reach out to Chris at Circle D and kind of let him know where you're at, power level, weight of the car, gearing, typical stuff that we need for a converter spec. But regardless, we got you covered there.
With our remote tuning package, is air fuel ratio gauge required for the remote tuning?
Well, basic bolt-on stuff and some small NA stuff, we can get by without an air fuel gauge, because it's, we can kind of err to the safe side and look at the factory oxygen sensors. It's not the ideal way to do it, but we can do that. With cam setups and everything, I really like having the wideband, because oftentimes the factory narrowband oxygen sensors, the reading varies so much. One car may be 850 millivolts, and the next car may be 920 millivolts, but both cars are 12.5 to 1 air fuel. So you have to be very general when you're not using a wideband. You have to kind of approach with caution on that. But a lot of bolt-on stuff we don't need a wideband for what we're doing.
Xavier Belford said, I need to wake up my 2014 Chevy SS. What do you suggest?
We've got an SS in here that we just did headers and some tuning on. It depends on how far you want to go with it. Certainly want to start with the bolt-on mods, exhaust, induction, tuning, and go from there. I don't know if you're into doing a cam and converter and stuff like that, but that's, being an LS3, there's, your options are wide open.
As a matter of fact, if you scroll back down on our page, I think it was about a week ago, we shared a video of a Chevy SS. Well, I think it was our SS3 in it. Two. SS2.
Is that the one John and those guys
Yeah.
did? Yeah.
Yeah. Sounded really good.
Mm-hmm.
Zach is asking, where's his cam?
I don't know. You'll have to ask the shipping guy.
Well, it was a drop ship, so.
Oh. See, I
He
just tune cars.
had to have that custom ridiculous cam, so.
Ah.
Yeah. It don't fit on the shelf, basically. Jeremy Lacey said, how much horsepower can you gain with E85 over race gas on a Z01?
I wouldn't expect a ton. And it certainly it's going to depend on what race gas you're using and the tune-up. But it's hard to beat E85 on boosted stuff, especially up to that 1,000-1,200 horsepower range. It's so inexpensive. It makes great power. It burns clean. A lot of race fuels being leaded. Foul plugs and foul oxygen sensors. E85 is just a win in my book at that power level. If you got 20 to 30 horsepower, I would call it probably a pretty good gain. But just really need to know what fuel you had and where you were at power-wise to really know what to expect in the combination.
So, that kind of reminds me, a lot of people ask, I see a lot of it on Facebook for sure. People saying, well, I got a 5th gen with your basic bolt-on cam converter set up. Mm-hmm. And they want to know about running E85, how much they're going to pick up on just a basic cam setup. And you got people out there telling them that they're going to get 5 to 7 horsepower. Some of them saying you're going to get 25 to 30. Yeah. And it just seems to be a lot of misunderstanding and confusion out there. So
how much you pick up with E85 is going to depend, on how much, how aggressive the tune-up was with 93 or pump gas, 91 octane. If you're limited to 91 octane in your area, that's all you've got, but you have E85 also, well, you stand to pick up some power. But if you've got 93 in the car and you're around that 10 to 11 to 1 compression ratio range, you're not going to pick up a ton of power. If you pick up 5 horsepower, it's probably pretty good. That's the truth of the matter. And when you start going up higher in compression, you'll pick up a little bit more. The little direct injected engines like the LT1s, they pick up 20 to 25 commonly, but they're also 11.5 to 1. So like most anything, it's setup specific, but the LS3 L99 stuff, naturally aspirated, just not huge gains with the 85. There's not. It acts a little different than the DI stuff does.
What's the suggested stall for a SS4 no fly cut? Matt Hall said he's loving his cam, but he needs more converter and less RPM drop.
5,000 plus. I think he's got a 4L80 in his car too, which has an extremely tall first gear. He doesn't have the luxury of having a 4-to-1 low gear like a 6L80 car. I would be somewhere in probably the 5,800 range, 6,000 personally. That's where I would be.
Donovan Henderson said, I drive my car 4+ hours going to different tracks. Can I continue to drive my car that far with the no fly cut?
Absolutely. The only special consideration with any cam setup in aftermarket springs, you want to have heat in the engine before you go ripping on it, to make sure you don't break a valve spring. And valve spring maintenance, it's good practice at 20,000 or so, 15, 20, 25,000 miles, depending on how you use the car, to put a fresh set of springs on. They're cheap, and it sucks when they break. So that's about all you have to worry about there.
Xavier said, can you do a custom tune on a 14 SS to backfire when he lets off the gas?
Well, it's not something I commonly try to do, but I imagine if we throw enough fuel at it, and pull the timing down to like negative 40 degrees, we could probably make something happen.
Negative 40, huh? Let's see. George Thomas said, "Can't wait to see you in the 8s, Ryan." Joni joined.
8s in the 8th?
Hmm?
8s in the 8th, maybe?
No, I think he means in the quarter.
No, I'm too slow to run
In
8s
A.
in the quarter in A. I'm too slow for that.
You probably are. Good thing your car's not.
Mm.
Tommy Hunt said, "Be in next week with 17 ZL1 for smaller upper pulley, 2-inch headers. Already have a rotofab. How much horsepower do you think it's going to pick up?"
Those two gentlemen that came down from Northwest Arkansas, we did a Z06, a 17 Z06 that was pulleyed, air intake, headers on pump gas and tuning. We did the tuning on it. And he also had, the same gentleman had a 19 Z01 with the same exact mods. I think both cars made in the 620 range, and a baseline stock on our dyno normally in the 640, or excuse me, the 540 range. Automatic or manual will vary the numbers just a little bit, but I would say 80 horsepower or so, pretty comfortably.
Dylan said, "Ryan, do you do any street racing, or are you strictly a track guy? You definitely hurt some feelings."
Well, I hate to sound old, but when I was younger, I did a lot. I don't really street race anymore. I like it, but I don't really have the time for it, and I've got too much to lose if I get out there and get busted too. So I just stick to the track. I'm just a track guy.
When you was younger, huh?
When I was younger,
That 1 mile drag strip in front of Jack Frost.
anywhere. It didn't matter where I was at. Anywhere.
What's your opinion on the future of the 6L80 and drag racing? Seems like more tuners are becoming aware how to keep them alive.
Well, I think a lot of people are learning the platform better, George. Tuning is certainly the key to keeping those things alive. We have pretty good support for hard parts now. We can get the billet intermediate shaft, and the factory clutches actually work really well in those. We have the boost valve for the pump on the trans, and there's not a ton that needs to be done. Just careful, kind of usage. Just kind of etiquette on using the transmission. As far as a drag transmission, I don't think that it's the greatest drag transmission. As you get faster, you don't need all that gearing. You don't need to shift 3 times on an 8-second car usually. But having that drivability and the ability to get out on the highway and cruise is nice. So I don't know where it goes. I think it's just going to be, depending on the build. It's a great transmission. They're holding up some good power. I just don't know that it's the perfect transmission for a lot of setups.
Julie said, "What's your favorite part about your job at GPI?"
I like helping folks out. I like helping people out in general. It's always nice to work with a customer that has a goal in mind. It doesn't matter if they're what their budget is or how much money they spend. That doesn't matter at all. Having a goal and helping that customer achieve that goal, whether it's to run 12.0, 11.0, 10.0, doesn't matter. That's my favorite part. Is just being able to help somebody get to where they want to be.
Connor said, "I know these are your favorite questions, so I figured I'd ask. It's about 10-1, running 91 with our SS4 VVT, heads, rod mod, full bolt-ons, making 495-ish. Do you think picking up 50 to 60 with the high ram and E85 is realistic?"
Maybe. The fact that you're running on 91 right now is going to make your E85 gains a little bit better. So if you picked up 10 On Ben's car, we already know the high ram picked his car up versus our reported modded manifold by 30 something horsepower. That's tired. Through a turbo 400. I think you could knock on 50 horsepower, pretty close to it. The great thing is the high ram is going to give you such more RPM range. It's going to feel like a lot more than that when you can, turn the thing 75, 7600 RPM and not fall on its face.
Philip Green said, how far are you willing to spin the BTR 660 springs with Johnson short travels and a Manton Series 5 push rods, stock rockers with Trunnion upgrade?
We've taken that combo 7500 a lot of times.
And is the PSI 1516 more suited for the 78 to 7900 range?
I can tell you for a fact we have ran the PSI 1516s to 8,000 RPMs. They're a good spring. People are, in general, are scared because of the internet. They're scared to death of beehive springs. But the fact of the matter is, there's a reason the manufacturers run beehive springs. There's a reason a lot of top race teams, NASCAR, circle track people run beehive springs. They're great at what they're designed to do. They RPM good, and controlling the valve train, looking at that stuff on a Spintron, a lot of times they're better than most dual springs. We run the BTR 660s on, I would say, 95% of our builds. But we are liking what we're seeing with some PSI beehive springs, and conical springs have their place too. There's some cool stuff going on with conical springs as well. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm gonna package some valve spring kits together using beehive and conical springs. That's coming, and I think that that technology is awesome, and I would hate to waste it. Just don't get overly worried about breaking a beehive spring. Usually when you break a spring, it's because of something else. And this is maybe a news flash, but if you break a dual spring, it sucks too. You're still gonna, bend a valve or whatever. You're not, in the clear just because you've got a dual spring on there if it breaks. So it's never good to break anything in the valve train. But I'm not gonna, beehives and conicals have their place, and we're gonna, moving forward, we're gonna use those a lot more in some of our stuff.
Mitch Ludwig's in here. Said he's missing his car.
It's looking pretty fresh sitting out there right now.
It's on a lift.
It is on a lift. It's actually getting better. Pretty close. And I don't know if you saw this, Mitch, but the automatic clone of your car, basically, who's I'm not gonna name, the car's been 950s with the same camshaft, same heads, all the same mods, basically. Just saying. I mean, it's up to you if you're rolling the gears, but it should be fun. No pressure.
It would be a good matchup. Huh?
It would.
Carnell's in here.
What's up, man?
What's the fastest you've seen a manual LS3 go with the SS4?
Billy Sharp in his 5th gen went 1060s, I think, with the manual still in the car. I'm pretty sure. I have to check with him on that. Philip Green's got one in a C6, and he's about to go 9s.
True or false? The E85 doesn't pick up a lot on NA, but will allow you to run max timing with limited detonation.
Well, that's true. E85 is not a huge gain. We talked about that a little earlier. You are going to have some more pad in your tune-up because it is resistant to detonation. But at the same time, with any tune-up, you could, just because you can put more timing in it doesn't mean you're going to make more power. It's relative to what the engine wants. So you can put more timing in it and actually lose power sometimes. But it does give you a little bit more pad as far as resistance to detonation and safety.
How do you feel about auxiliary fuel pump? Switching to E85, already have LPE twin, started running out of fuel at 780 before having turbo issues. Are better off going to the 4 pump.
We run a lot of the auxiliary pumps. Some of the Z01 stuff, the Cadillac stuff. I like both setups. What I don't like about the 4 setup for a drag application is you have to watch how much fuel you run, because the tank is so shallow. You don't have a bucket. You have 2 or 3 pumps that just sit at the bottom of the tank, basically. So if you run less than half a tank, the G-force when you launch will pull that fuel out from under the pumps, and it can starve and just kind of lay over on its nose. I actually had that problem with my car. So if you run the 4 setup, it's awesome. It works great. The quality is second to none, but you need to make sure that you've got your fuel level up there at that 3/4 of the tank or better to make sure you don't have any surge off the line. I think that's where the auxiliary pump setup has an advantage because you won't have that issue.
How have you liked tuning with the Holley Terminator Dominator system?
Love it. That's probably my favorite system to tune with, especially in the aftermarket arena. It's nice because you've got the tables and everything that we need to work with. We have everything there. We don't have a bunch of garbage we don't need. And the fuel control and learning features are just amazing. It significantly cuts down the time it takes to get that stuff dialed in.
Very important question from Connor. How bad is Brandon going to beat Mike at Camaro Fest?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I'm just gonna stay out of that. I'm gonna leave well enough alone there.
Well, the next comment just happens to be from Brandon saying, "Good info. Hope someone takes up your offer on the solid roller on the Gen 5 LT1. It'd be a pretty stout combo."
It would be a stout combo if someone were to do that.
Are you guys planning on an SS4 no-fly cam kit?
And we've already got it. It's on the site, ready to go. Can ship to you today.
Matt Hall said, "What's up, Ben?" But
he's actually doing productive work on the dyno right now. I don't know if you guys heard the dyno pool. He's got a CTSV over there right now. I'll tell him you said hi, though.
Donovan said, "When I buy the SS4, can I beat my friend Mike Talley?" I'm going to go with no.
Well, you see, it's probably going to take more than that. But anything's possible.
I mean, he could spin.
How fast do you want to spin? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Jeremy said the Dominator is awesome on our 6-gen shop car.
Yeah.
Connor said, "If anyone is weary of getting an SS4 for drivability, I've had my heads, cam, full bolt-on gears, and a drag pack on for 3 years, driven across country multiple times, never a single issue. I do pulls just about every day."
I can verify he is pretty hard on it. And it's, held up well.
Dalton said, "Let me know when you want some aux with your next order." Did you get your car together yet, by the way, Dalton? I ain't seen nothing on Facebook about it. What ECU do you guys use when you tune drive-by cable throttle bodies?
If we're doing a transplant or a swap, we either run the Holley ECUs or factory stuff. I mean, we run the 99 to 02 ECMs or PCMs, should say, for some of that stuff. But the track cars, the cars that are going to track a lot, we run the Holley Dominator stuff usually, or HP, depending on how many outputs we need.
Desmond Cook said the Caddy lifters versus the LS7 lifters.
Caddy. That's what they're designed for, no doubt. LS7 lifters are great, for an OE lifter, but the caddy lifter is just a better lifter. That's what it was designed for. I mean, 8,000 RPMs plus.
Now, to add on to that, caddy lifter versus the Johnson, because that's another question we get all the time.
I don't know that there's a clear-cut winner there, other than you have the option with the Johnson when they're available to get short travel lifters. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a popular lifter, and a lot of people buy those things up. If you're talking about a 2110 Johnson and a caddy lifter, there's been they're fairly comparable. The GM performance, the caddy lifter is going to come in a little cheaper though, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it is probably
about $120 cheaper,
equivalent to the quality of the Johnson lifter. We use both. We stock both. So it's sometimes it comes down to a preference of the customer or the builder on what they want to run, and we've used both with great success.
Jeremy was saying no, Dalton's car ain't back together. How'd yours do at Texas 2K, Jeremy? Dalton said hopefully by the end of the week. Do you guys ever do work on G8s? I have an 09 G8 GT and currently hunting high 10s. I have a BTR Stage 2 cam, TSP heads, full bolt-ons, E85 making 470. Can any GPI cam get me into the 10s?
Man, that's hard. I mean, you got a good camshaft and some good hardware on the car already. So, it's one of those things you need to evaluate, where you run the car. What's your elevation in that area? What's the weather like? Gearing, weight of the car. I don't think that there's ever a magic solution to say, man, yeah, just buy this cam and you're just going to go right there. I think we have, a camshaft that can help you get there, but we need to make sure the rest of the package is right to make sure you can get there. We've got Jeffrey Weeks, a good customer of ours, was down at Texas 2K. And,
destroying people.
And that car works so good on the street, and that car has been through a few camshaft changes. We've done some stuff, kind of testing on Jeff's car with cam and converter stuff, and we've got some pretty good results and good ideas of what to do on G8s and the SS sedans, the heavier cars with the square port heads.
What's the largest DBW throttle body you can get? 102 is not enough.
Oh man, what's the company? Is it Southways? There's one that's like 108 millimeter, and it's extremely expensive. There's more there, or you can just.
He's got a Corvette; he can afford it.
Yeah, Philip. I mean, you can just, at that point, you just man up and put a 4500 on it. Carb top 4500. You have all the air you need.
Is Mike going to be ready for Newport on the 13th?
Man, Mike was out at Centerville this past weekend. I think he is ready to go, to my knowledge. Actually, yeah, he's ready to go. Yeah, he's ready to go. Top secret squirrel stuff going on, but something about he was going to come run 490s at Newport or something. I don't know what he was talking about, but.
What's the fastest bolt-on car you've tuned stock cam?
Probably Brandon Hill. His 6th gen. It went into the mid-10s with bolt-ons. Then 5th gen wise, Jeff Tyndall went bottom 11s in 5th gen, which at the time was a record, and I'm not sure if it's still up there. He's one of the top 2 or 3 guys probably still.
Your thoughts on stall and its importance to durability and longevity?
Well, with any converter, I I think you definitely want to keep the trans cool. The converter's going to warm the fluid up. You're going to want to put a nice trans cooler on. Really make sure that you don't overheat that trans. That's the biggest thing with a converter. And guys with trucks that are going to tow some, you need to be aware of all that when you're putting together a converter combination. You don't want to put too much converter in the truck, and it takes 6,000 RPMs to pull off from a red light when you're towing your tractor or something. Careful consideration has to be taken, but
I think Dad just joined when you said that.
But with lock-up converters, typically you can get away with a little bit more converter and have the luxury of having that lock-up clutch when you get out on the highway to lock it up and keep the transmission fluid temps in check and all that stuff.
We got Rod Johnson in here. Shout out to my buddy Philip Green, aka Cheese Dog, for building a bad LS3 with GPI parts. Chris said tell Ben to stop making all that noise.
Can't. If he stops making noise, he stops making dollars.
And then you'd have to go back to actually working in the afternoons instead of doing
Don't
this.
say the W word.
I think I'm going to end up ordering SS4 no fly cut sooner than later. Already itching for more power after your heads. Oh, that's Caleb. That's the guy that I was telling you about the other day that picked up.
Is that the vet guy?
Yeah, the 2/10s from doing our
Awesome.
heads.
Yeah, Caleb.
So,
I mean, we'd love to help. That's one thing we pride ourselves on is we try to not be the guys that are only beating down social media with promises and dyno sheets and all that stuff. We want our stuff to go out there and run. I promise you, we will change it. We'll modify. We'll revise. Whatever we need to do. We want our products to speak for themselves, and I think we've done a good job so far with that, and we don't expect that to change. We're going to push hard into 2019 and beyond.
Ryan Smith, I've got my 18 Hyper Blue SS 1LE there now for GPI heads, SS3, MSD, Nick Williams 103, Cooks, E85. How's it coming along?
Man, Ryan, we are, like I was mentioning earlier, we are so smoked right now, man. We really haven't had any downtime. We were just talking about this before the live session. We've got over 40 cars here right now, and we've got 4 technicians and 7 racks, 7 lifts to work off of. Me and Ben doing tuning as well. So I'll have to see where you're at in the queue, where what the progress is on it, but I can check on that and hit you up and let you know. We've got another 6G in the shop right now that's actually supposed to deliver Thursday. A ZL1, a Chevelle, a Turbo Trans Am.
That Pontiac, the red one, it's still on the rack.
Oh, old school Pontiac, and there was something else. Oh, a Fitchian that we're putting the engine back in right now. So we're trying. Appreciate you guys being patient with us and everything. We're just it's a good problem to have, but when we're trying to get this stuff turned out as quickly as possible without compromise of quality.
Desmond's asking about 5th gen rear suspension kit, 15-inch kit.
Still waiting, man.
That's what you said last month.
Yes, it is, but it's just not yet. Other things going on. There's some other stuff we're working on too. So I'll keep you posted, Desmond, because that's going to be a good product.
Looks like all the questions.
Awesome. Well, I guess that's it then. We're going to call it a wrap. We appreciate you guys tuning in again. Hopefully we shed some light on some subjects to help inform. And if you, as always, if you have any questions, just hit us up, give us a call, email. it's hard on Facebook. It's hard to keep up with that Facebook Messenger. You guys try to call and email us, and I promise you we'll get back with you just as quick as we can. Very appreciative of you guys. So tune in next time.